We're joined here on FlowFM by Associate Professor Kristin Carson-Chahhoud. She is from the University of Adelaide, and we're talking about quitting smoking. Kristin, thanks for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me on.
Now, I'm intrigued by this initiative the South Australian government's putting together to help people quit smoking, a voucher at the supermarket to help you get on the bandwagon of getting off the smokes.
Yes, that's right. It's a very novel initiative, and it's actually a first worldwide supported by any government, so it's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to pick up on it. I hadn't heard of this being done before. I'm gathering, being an associate professor in this area, there would be some research backing providing these types of incentives to help people go the distance on quitting smoking.
Absolutely. So there's actually 33 studies internationally with over 21,000 people showing that financial incentives to support quit attempts are actually highly effective. But it's not something that's traditionally used. So it's good to see the government trying something different and novel that could just be the trigger for somebody to have a go at quitting smoking and vaping.
Yeah, you mentioned vaping there. I noticed this is an initiative to quitting either of those. Just what are you seeing in terms of transition or change from people that might have been smokers into vaping, or even people trying out vaping instead or first?
Yeah, that's the really difficult thing at the moment. It's actually people who have never smoked before who are going on to vapes. And unfortunately, the nicotine in them means that they're getting highly addicted. And when they're wanting to then quit, there's few supports that are available, which is again why this Incentive to Quit program is also supporting those who vape. But as you mentioned, it's also people who were cigarette smokers who then go on to vape, but then they can't get off the vapes, but they want to. So once again, this program provides an opportunity to support them with quitting smoking and vaping.
Now let's just go back to smoking for a moment. I want to talk vaping as well, but I think the Health Minister, when this announcement was made about the $150 supermarket voucher incentive scheme, he was saying it's probably the leading preventable health condition in South Australia, or would that be true even nationwide?
Nationwide, yes. So tobacco is still the leading cause of preventable mortality, so death and disability in Australia.
And when it comes to vaping, what do we know so far about its impacts on people's health?
We know that it can cause some cellular damage in the lungs, and we're seeing a lot of studies in mouse models and in cells that are showing potentially damaging changes. Unfortunately, we don't have huge amounts of evidence to support either way, but we are seeing some disappointing and compelling studies to suggest that they are harmful, which is why the government's taken the stance of not supporting vapes, like is what's being recommended over in the UK, which is actually a little bit disturbing, to say the least.
Yeah, look, and I noticed that Philip Morris, one of the big tobacco companies, has moved big time into promoting vapes. It does seem to me it indicates that they've got an interest in just transitioning people from smokes to vapes.
Well, when I started working in tobacco control about 15 years ago, I thought, I won't be in this game very long. We know the harms of tobacco. It's a dying industry on the way out. Let's just say I wish I was right at the time. Unfortunately, vapes seem to be the new lifeline for big tobacco, and certainly at the moment it's paying off. And we're seeing all the same kind of tactics, such as advertising through social media and misinformation being pushed through big tobacco, all happening once again, just like it did with smoking. It's now happening again with vaping.
Now, just work through the mechanisms of this supermarket voucher program. I guess once you pick, you're deemed eligible for this trial, do you just get a $150 voucher, or do you sort of get a bit along the journey to keep you going with the quitting effort?
Yeah, it's over a 6-month period, and we're not just supporting people to quit smoking, but we're actually providing vouchers to encourage them to use evidence-based quit strategies like quit-line counselling that we know to be effective. So from the outset, they get a $10 Coles gift card just for signing up and agreeing to having a go at quitting. But if they agree to talk to Quitline, straight away during the consult, they get a $20 gift card. At the 3-month mark, if they've had 4 or more chats with Quitline, they get an additional Coles gift card incentive to encourage that to have occurred. And then they also get gift cards if they have successfully quit, which we confirm with a breath test.
Ah,
make
right.
Sure that it is true that they have successfully quit at 3 months and 6 months.
Yeah, so it's a sort of a milestone-based approach on the journey to quitting.
Exactly.
And Kristin, just before you go, it just seems odd to me, and I guess it tells you how addictive smoking is, that it's so expensive with all the taxes and excises that have been put on cigarettes, but people still find the money in a cost of living pressure environment to pay for them. And does it sometimes come at the cost of maybe other household needs?
Look, unfortunately it does, and this is part of the insidious nature of tobacco and why it's so important that the government is investing in campaigns and programs and initiatives that can help people quit, because it does have a huge emotional, financial and health burden on families.
Well, you've been listening to the University of Adelaide Associate Professor Kristin Carson-Chahhoud. We're very interested to see how this world-leading trial works out in 6 to 12, 10 months, couple years' time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.